welcome to the Game E3 Daily Update. It's day one of the show floor.
One of the big themes from this year's show has been co-op, so what better way to kick things off than with some 4v1 in Evolve.
Evolve is a 4 versus 1 cooperative competitive shooter. We've crafted a game that on one side is sort of a true cooperative experience in that it's not just you and 3 buddies like in the same place. You know, this is you and 3 buddies that have to actually work together and sort of play off each other's abilities. People love co-op, you know? I mean, I think there wasn't much in the way of co-op before Left 4 Dead. True co-op, you know, where you really have to rely on your teammates and you're not just all shooting at the same thing. Evolve is actually an old concept. It's even older than Left 4 Dead. You know, Chris had it, you know, sort of boiling around in his head, you know, before we did Left 4 Dead. There's definitely DNA of Left 4 Dead in Evolve, but I think we pushed it pretty far away from that game. From the monster side, you know, you get to be the boss. You get to be the boss monster. You start out relatively weak, you know, at stage 1, and as you move through the environment, eating the wildlife, you know, you get bigger and stronger, right? So while the monster starts off at a bit of a disadvantage in the beginning, by the end, the hunters and then now become the hunted, right? When the monster reaches stage 3, he's huge and awesome, and you know, and then the hunters are in trouble.
Another big feature of this year's E3 is immersive worlds, and what better way to experience it than with The Witcher 3.
The Witcher 3 is obviously the end chapter for the history of Geralt. It takes place about 6 months after the final of the ending of The Witcher 2. The fact that we're doing an open world game is a consequence rather than a cause of a decision. So in our case, we really wanted to do a very good story, a very good story-driven game. But this time we wanted to give the player the freedom to go anywhere he wants and explore and do anything he desires. And thus we introduced the open world game. So it was like a consequence of something that we really wanted to do. It opens up a whole lot of opportunities because now you can just go anywhere you want. You can meet the people you want, you can do the things you want, you can explore for side quests and all the things. And there's a lot to do and very much worth exploring. The tools are great. I mean, we have obviously CD Projekt Red has their own in-house game engine, right? And this engine there are things in this engine which are really, and the rendering is certainly one of them. The rendering system is tremendous. And in the world of The Witcher, it's almost everything is handmade. It's crazy. It's very non-advisable from a game dev point of view because it's just a crazy amount of work. And again, this brings me back to the other thing that it's very much worth exploring because everywhere you find these unique villages, these unique places, the mountains, the caves. All these places are completely unique. There's something to be discovered. There's some quests to embark upon. So all these things there's a lot of work and it's worth checking out.
Another game with an immersive world but has slightly more explosions and a few more elephants is Far Cry 4.
So Far Cry 4 is set in the Himalayas, in a small country nestled somewhere between the borders of India and China. It's a place we call Kirat. In Far Cry 4, you play AJ Gale. So he's a young guy he was born in Kirat. Both of his parents were from Kirat, but he left when he was pretty young, like 3-4 years old, and he hasn't been back since. He doesn't really know too much about the place, and his mother died, and her final wish was that he goes back to Kirat and takes her ashes to a sacred place. Like the first 5 minutes of the game, it's AJ, you stepping into AJ's shoes, traveling on that bus on the rickety mountain road to try and get through the border, and that's when you meet Pagan Min.
I distinctly remember saying, "Stop the bus."
Pagan Min is the master of the environment. Like, he made Kirat what it is today. So he isn't at the mercy of this place. This place is at the mercy of him. Like, he's in charge.
Yes, stop the bus. Not shoot the bus. I'm very particular with my words.
He took over, he invaded like an outsider, he came in, he murdered everyone who stood in his way, called himself king, and then you realize that he's a cat, and you're the cat's new favorite toy.
That's it for your Game E3 Daily Update.
We'll see you again tomorrow.